Good morning. It is day one of NaNoWriMo, and the word count goal for the day is 1,667 words. It's about 9:30 in the morning, and I already feel like I'm behind because I meant to write a little bit after midnight last night, and I crashed. So I'm currently sick, and I feel a little bit better today, but I felt especially bad yesterday, and that all culminated in me just being absolutely exhausted last night, and I crashed hard. And I think every NaNoWriMo that I've done up until this point, I have written right at the stroke of midnight, and so the fact that I didn't do that this time makes me feel like I'm behind. That said though, apart from being sick, I do have plenty of time today to write, so I really have no excuse. So I'm gonna try to get a lot written today as much as possible. One thing that I know about myself is that I'm definitely not someone who's like slow and steady wins the race and like slowly does things to work toward a goal. So I know I'm not gonna be able to hit the word count every single day. I'm someone who's probably gonna write like 3,000 to 4,000 words in one day and then just like not write another day. That's just how I function. So when I'm feeling motivated to write, I need to get like as much done as possible. To be honest, I'm not sure that day is today. This is like the least motivated I've felt at the beginning of NaNoWriMo, but that's possibly just because I'm sick. But I digress. Let's talk about what my plans are for today. I don't necessarily have a word count goal today apart from the general NaNoWriMo word count. My goal today is to finish chapter 3. Right now, I think I'm about 1,000 words into chapter 3, and I've been shooting for 2,000 to 3,000 words for every chapter, and I think this one's gonna be on the longer end, so hopefully if I get to 3,000 words, I write somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,000 words today. But like I said, the bigger goal for me today is to get to the end of chapter 3 and to assess from there. If I want to write more, I might, but that is my goal for today. So that's enough talking for now. I'm gonna go and actually get some work done, and I will check back in later. So it is now about 2 p.m. and I finished today's words. I currently have just a little bit under 1,700 words, and I'm surprised how easily the words came to me. I actually ended up going to a local coffee shop to write, and I got everything done there. I don't know what it is about going to a coffee shop to write, because like usually I don't function well when other people are around, but maybe it's just like when I'm at a coffee shop taking up a table, I feel like I need to be productive. I don't know. Either way, it helped and I got my words. Simultaneously, I also accomplished my goal of finishing chapter 3. It is a little bit longer than it needs to be at this point. I think it's a little bit over 3,000 words. So at some point, I'm gonna need to cut that down. But for now, it's done and I feel pretty okay about the words. They're not like the best words I've ever written, but they're definitely better than my words would have been a couple NaNoWriMos ago, and I don't think they're significantly worse than what I would have written without it being NaNoWriMo, if that makes sense. So the project that I'm working on is mostly told in first person, but there are a few sections, often at the end of a chapter, that are from the point of view of a different character, and it's in third person, and I'm finding that it is a lot easier to write from his point of view than it is from my main character's point of view. So my main character is a girl named Charlie, and this character is named Nick. And fortunately, I do think that I've given them two very distinct voices, which I'm kind of proud of because I've always felt like voice is something that I'm a little shaky on. So I'm kind of glad that I feel like I've made these characters distinct. But like I said, I feel like the words are flowing a lot easier from Nick's point of view, which isn't a problem, but one of the things that I've contemplated over the past year or so with the story is the potential of turning it into a full dual narration story, because I kind of think that Nick's story is compelling enough for him to be a dual narrator alongside Charlie, and writing this section is really starting to make me wonder if that's a direction I should have gone in, and I don't think that right now is a good time to be questioning myself because it's day one of NaNoWriMo. So I think for now I'm just gonna put that in the back of my mind and kind of ruminate on it a little bit, but continue on drafting, because I don't know if that's necessarily a very productive thought process to have when I want to be drafting. So today's words are done. I do think I'm gonna try to write more later tonight, but I'm not totally sure. we'll see if I'm feeling up to it or not. I think it would be cool if I could double the word count today. I don't know if that's feasible. Maybe just shoot for 3,000 words, I don't know. But for now, I'm gonna take a bit of a break from NaNoWriMoing and get some other stuff done. Alright, so it is currently 9:30 at night on day one, and I just wrote another chapter. It ended up being a short chapter, and I think I'm gonna need to expand on it later. But that was 1,500 words, about like 1,455. So I've essentially almost doubled the daily word count goal. I don't know how this happened. I started out doing like a 20-minute sprint on nano sprints, and that turned into me writing for nearly an hour and a half. I actually finished the chapter about half an hour ago. I wrote like 1,200 words in that first hour, and over the past half hour, I've just been adding stuff. I did that thing where I didn't have a lot of dialogue tags and much description, and then I went in and had to fill in a bunch of that, and that gave me the extra 300-ish words. So yeah, I'm through the end of chapter 4, and I can start chapter 5 tomorrow. And I'm not exactly sure at this point, but I'm at least over 3,000 words for NaNoWriMo so far, which I'm really excited about. That's a really great start for day one. I don't think I'm gonna write any more today because I think I'm all worded out. That said, something that I wanted to do earlier today and did not do for this writing session is that I want to do a bit more detailed bullet point list for whatever section I want to write. Like I have a solid, like large paragraph explanation for what each chapter needs to be, but I kind of want to break it down into small bullet points to hit. And one of the biggest reasons why I want to do this is that I want to be more outlined with my dialogue, because my dialogue is often where I get myself into trouble, where I meander or ramble too much. Like too much of the time my dialogue is too much like a real life conversation and too natural and has like a lot of extra stuff in there that doesn't need to be in there. Stuff like that. And I think that bullet pointing scenes and thinking about that on a more minute level will help me with that. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that tonight for chapter 5 or if I'm going to do that tomorrow before I write. I'm not sure, but at some point I want to do that for chapter 5 and see how well that works. So that's it for day 1. I got a little bit over 3,000 words. I'm very content with that. I feel pretty good about it, and I will see you tomorrow. Good morning. It is day 2 of NaNoWriMo, and the word count goal for today is like 3,333 words, and I'm currently sitting at about 3,150. It's about 10 a.m. I haven't written anything yet today, but fortunately I have a pretty clear plan ahead of me. So first of all, I want to go through what I wrote yesterday and do some of that very, very light editing, mostly because I want to see like how good or bad the words I wrote yesterday were. Secondly, I want to do what I mentioned last night and kind of bullet point out chapter 5 and everything that I want to happen in it. And third, I want to write chapter 5. I think that chapter 4 and chapter 5 are going to be similar lengths, and chapter 4 ended up being about 1,500 words, which was a bit shorter than I expected. But in hindsight, I think I might have dragged out that chapter a little bit too much, and if these two chapters are similar lengths, I'm betting that a similar thing is going to happen today. So now in hindsight, thinking about it, I might need to combine these two chapters into one. And as I was thinking about that, maybe like half an hour ago, I thought of a way to do that, and I think it could work. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it right now. I might do it after I write the chapter today and see how long it ends up being. But honestly, now that I have thought about the idea to combine them into one chapter, I think that might honestly just be the best bet either way, because they fit really well together and they flow very easily one to the next one. So we'll see. But chapter 5 is going to be a fun one to write, I think. It's something that I didn't include in the previous version of Flirting with Fame, that it really needed to be in there. One of the books I've been reading recently is The Anatomy of Story, and one of the things it talks about in there is that with whatever premise you have for your novel or your story, there are certain things that are like expectations for that type of story. Like the first example to come to mind, and I don't know why this is what came to mind because I hate these, but like Fast and Furious, there's gonna be car chases and explosions. And with my story, where my main character meets a pop band and can't tell anyone about it, but it's also her best friend's favorite band, there are certain expectations. I don't want to be too specific, but it's a scene that with that premise is just kind of a requirement. Like, it's gonna have to happen at some point, and I didn't have it in the previous version, so we're putting it in here. I think it's gonna fit really well if I combine the chapters. So that's what my plans are for today. Edit, plan, write chapter 5, and we'll see how that goes. Current motivation is at approximately 0. It's about 9:30 at night. I just wrote a little over the word count goal for the day, like 1680 something, and I don't feel great about them, but I finished chapter 5. Finding motivation to write today was a struggle, and I think that really is reflected in the words that I wrote today and how good they were. And I don't think they were great. I just don't feel super confident about the words that I got out for chapter 5. This specific scene is one that's always felt a little shaky, in the sense that I've never been super certain about how to write it and approach it, and I don't think it was ever one that I was going to be able to write very cleanly. Like, none of them really are, but this is one that is going to be probably especially messy on the first write regardless, so I probably shouldn't feel as bad about that as I do, but that's how I feel. So I mentioned yesterday that I'm more of someone who works in sprints rather than works in a marathon, and I think that one of the things about me that makes me like that is that I have little obsessions. I'm not sure that's necessarily the best way to put it, but I often get very focused on, fixated on, obsessed with one thing for a short period of time, and I go like full force on that, and then I kind of move on to something else, which is kind of good for NaNoWriMo because sometimes a month can be like a short little chunk of time to get obsessed with something, and then after that month you kind of just move on from it. But sometimes it could also be like a couple days or a week or something. But during NaNoWriMo, if my primary obsession isn't my story, then sometimes whatever I'm more excited about and focused on at the moment can overtake that. I'm not sure if any of this is making sense, but I say all of this to say that I got in the mood to watch Survivor earlier today, and I started watching Survivor and getting really excited about Survivor instead of being excited about my story. That's my point in all of this. Yesterday I was really excited about my story, and then today I nearly lost all motivation to write because I was excited to watch Survivor. It's just little things like that that can nearly derail me from getting anything done because my like primary excitement or focus shifts. So right now this is clearly going to be a lesson in self-control, which I'm really bad at. I watched a couple episodes of the season of Survivor that I wanted to binge watch, and then I wrote my words. And now I'm probably gonna go and watch some more Survivor. I'm watching Heroes, Healers, Hustlers, by the way, if anyone's curious. I never finished it, and I really like the cast, so I'm watching it. I think that since I hit the daily word count and I'm finding motivation a little bit difficult right now, I think that's where I'm going to break for today. That's all I'm gonna get done. I'm not gonna try to do anything extra or overdo anything, and I'm just gonna let myself rest. So I'm at the end of day 2. I have over 4,000 words, maybe like 4,700. I'm not sure if that's correct. It's somewhere in that ballpark. So I do feel good about the words that I have, and hopefully tomorrow I will feel better about the words that I write. I just almost said good morning, and it is absolutely not morning. It is day 3 of NaNoWriMo. The word count goal for today is 5,000 words, and it is 5 p.m. and I have not written anything, so I'm sitting at 4,800 words. But guess what I have done today? Watched Survivor. I'm telling you, it's a bad thing when my number one excitement shifts from my NaNoWriMo project to something else. That said though, I am primarily a nighttime evening writer, so I am gonna get words done today. I'm not worried about it, but I have not done anything today. Honestly, today has just been kind of a slow, unproductive day in general, apart from me not writing anything yet. So after writing the chapter yesterday, it ended up being about 1,600 words, and I feel like I stretched it a bit too much, so I think I will end up combining yesterday's chapter and the day before's chapter, which I believe were originally 4 and 5. So I think I'm going to combine those into one longer chapter, and this, I think, is kind of helping me to see that I'm probably going to end up with mostly 3,000 word chapters instead of the 2,000 to 3,000 word chapters that I'd been originally shooting for. Here's the thing, I vastly prefer long books over short books, and I think that I tend to write similarly, but I'm writing a YA contemporary story, and that's kind of like the shortest of all of the full-length novels. Like, from everything that I've seen, YA contemporary novels are like around 60 to 70,000 words, and I don't think I've ever written a draft that is less than 90,000 words. Like, my first draft for this story was like 96,000 words, and I rushed the ending on that one. So let's just say that my first draft for this was like 100,000 words. And the novel that I used as a comparison was Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, because that is one of the longest contemporaries I've seen or read, and it's like 400, 500 pages, I'm not sure, and that is like a little bit over 100,000 words. So I think that those numbers ring pretty true for YA contemporaries, and I think that I need to come to terms with the fact that if I write a YA contemporary story, it's probably going to be on the longer end no matter what, but that longer end needs to be like no longer than 80,000 words, which is gonna be a struggle for me. Which is why I was shooting for about 2,000 to 3,000 words per chapter, and now that I'm seeing that I continually get closer to the 3,000 word chapters, I am hoping that further along the line I end up continuing to kind of push some together, or some end up being shorter than I expect them, because I feel like 3,000 words in context is so little, and I don't know how I'm going to fit this into even 80,000 words, let alone like the 60 to 70 that is often suggested or recommended, which again is why I gave myself that 2,000 to 3,000 word cap for each chapter, and the fact that I'm consistently getting up near that top end is slightly concerning to me. But that just tells me I'm going to have some editing to do when I finish this draft, and I'm going to have to condense things, and I'm going to have to make it work, and I'm going to have to shorten things because I already knew I was an overwriter, and this is just continuing to confirm it. And now honestly I don't remember what got me started off on this tangent, but back on the topic of what I need to write today, I wrote chapter 5 yesterday, or chapter 4 if I condense those two chapters, but we'll keep on with the same numbering. That was chapter 5, and chapters 6 and 7 take place over the course of one night. And I'm pretty confident that I can't continue writing one chapter per day, because I know that chapter 7 is probably going to be on the upper end, like closer to that 3,000 word mark. I think chapter 6 is going to be a little bit shorter, so maybe I can get the entirety of chapter 6 today. We'll see. Given how the last couple of chapters went, I'm kind of concerned about this one, because I think this one might also end up being on the shorter end, which is completely contrary to what I was just saying about me being an overwriter. But I think this one is about the same length as the last couple, but I also think that chapter 7 is going to be on the longer end, so it's not like I can combine it with anything. So I might have like an awkwardly short chapter. So I'm not sure what to do about that. But that's not what I need to worry about today. Today, what I need to worry about is just getting it written. Right now, my main goal is just to keep up with the daily word count goal to write 1,667 words, even though I'm a bit ahead. I'm not sure if that will get me all the way through the chapter or not, but if it does, cool, I'm done for the day. If it doesn't, I might continue writing to the end of the chapter. I really don't know. It just depends, but that's what I plan to do today after all of that rambling. So that's what I plan to do. We'll see how that goes, and I will check back in with you later. Okay, the lighting right now is kind of a mess, and my hair is kind of a mess, and I'm kind of a mess, but hopefully this is a really quick update, so hopefully everything can stay together for like 2 minutes. Also, it lightly snowed overnight, which is really not cool. It's November 4th. Can the weather please chill? It is day 4 of NaNoWriMo. The word count goal for today is 6,667 words, I believe, and I am currently sitting at 6,500 words. So I didn't update again last night, but I did hit the daily word count goal. I think I literally got 1,670 words, so I hit the goal. I also finished chapter 6, but I pulled like every single word from chapter 6 that I possibly could, so I think that in editing it's going to be a lot shorter, which is concerning given that so far it seems like my chapters are going to be about 3,000 words a piece, so that's gonna be a problem. But again, we don't need to focus on that right now because it's NaNoWriMo and the point is drafting, and editing will come later. So today I'm moving on to chapter 7, which is going to be a continuation of the same evening as chapter 6, and my main goal for the day is to get to tomorrow's word count goal. Every day so far I have finished the day with like 100 to 200 words under the next day's daily goal. Like the overall goal for day 3 was 5,000 words, and I finished day 2 with 4,800 words, so I wasn't quite to day 3's goal, and I want to be a full day ahead by the end of the day today. I'm pretty sure that won't get me to the end of chapter 7, but it also shouldn't be that difficult to accomplish, so I think I can manage it. And I'm far too lazy to actually try and do the math in my head, but I think that brings me to like somewhere around 8,300 words by the end of the day. If I can finish chapter 7 by the end of the day, that would be nice. That would probably include me writing like 3,000 words today, and I'm not sure I have that in me today. I have other stuff I need to get done, but we will see. I am gonna go to the coffee shop to write, I think, and I will check back in with you later today. Also, another thing I need to do today is to finally actually make my playlist to listen to while writing because I'm getting very sick of ASMR videos. If I remember correctly, I was much more successful during NaNoWriMo 2016, the only one that I've won with this story, when I was listening to music. ASMR videos are great and they help me focus without distracting me too much, but I think I write better with music, and so I need to figure out a playlist because I cannot listen to another ASMR video while writing. It was almost torture last night. That's an exaggeration, but it was so boring and I felt my mind drifting several times, and I think music will help me focus more, so maybe I'll do that at the coffee shop as well. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, for real now, I gotta go. I gotta get stuff done. Also, this lighting is terrible and I'm sick of it. Hey, so it is much later in the day. It is almost the end of day 4 now, and I just finished writing for the day and ended up getting 2,000 words. And that gets me to about 8,500 words for NaNoWriMo, which did get me to my goal of writing to day 5's word count goal. And which also means that as long as I get tomorrow's like daily 1667, I'm gonna pass 10K tomorrow. And it's weird, for all of the talk that I've done about how I'm an overwriter and how I constantly ramble and write too much, I feel like I'm gonna have to expand on all of these chapters I've written lately, because I think that I wrote the entirety of chapter 7 today, and I think that in the end, when I'm finished with it, it is going to be 3,000 words, but for some reason, everything I've been writing throughout NaNoWriMo has been shorter than expected. I don't know, maybe I'm psyching myself out and I'm getting too much in my head about being an overwriter. I'm not sure, but I'm getting words on the page and I'm pretty content with what I wrote today, so I'm all good. Now, the other thing that I mentioned I wanted to do today is to make a playlist for NaNoWriMo, and I was somewhat successful in that. So here's the problem that I ran into with this, is that I kind of have 2 music moods that are fighting with each other. Mood number 1 is kind of like the music that gets me in the mood to write, stuff that's low-key and really laid back. Some good examples of this are like Parachute, which is one of my favorite bands. Their music is very like easygoing, laid back, pretty chill. My go-to is always Falling in Love at a Coffee Shop by Landon Pig. That one is the one that I always associate with this story. So in many ways, just like a laid back coffee shop vibe. And then the other mood is maybe not even like the tone of my novel, but rather like the music that my main character would listen to. Because my main character listens to a lot of like alternative bands and pop punk and kind of the type of stuff I listened to in high school. So I ended up making 2 separate playlists, one for each of those moods. And I'm not sure if that's actually going to be helpful, but that's what I did. And then instead of listening to either of those while writing, I ended up actually listening to Fast Times at Barrington High by The Academy Is, which is an album that I've always really heavily associated with this story. And there aren't really any like concrete like correlations between my story and the album, except the fact that it's about high school and my character's a high schooler. Honestly, I think that the majority of the reason that I associate this album with high school and therefore with this story is because it's so closely tied into high school for me, because this album came out literally the day I started high school. So not only is it an album that came out the day I started high school and I got it that day, but also it's an album about high school and the high school experience and like specific high school experiences. So I think I'm just gonna heavily associate it with anything that is related to high school ever, even if it's not actually strictly related, if that makes sense. And I've now gotten so off topic at this point, so back on topic. So I am done writing for the day. I finished chapter 7, or this very rough version of chapter 7 that I'm probably gonna have to expand upon. But even though I know that I'm done writing for the day, I'm not sure I'm done writing for the night. I'm not gonna write anymore before it hits midnight, but I might write some more before I go to sleep. Not totally sure. I think I'm just kind of still in the mood to write a little bit, so I might end up doing that. I don't know. We'll see. Good morning. It is day 5 of NaNoWriMo. The word count goal for today is 8,335 words, and I am still at 8,500. I have no definitive plan for the day. I don't know what I'm writing. I don't know how many words I want to get today. I am in the mood to write and I want to write a lot, but that is not why I'm here right now. So I was just editing the part that you just watched. And as I was editing that, I was struck with a realization that I think I've had in the back of my mind for a little while, but hadn't actively thought about, and I kind of wanted to talk about that. So I was editing the section where I was talking about Fast Times at Barrington High, the Academy Is album that I was writing to last night. And thinking about the album and listening to myself talk about the correlation between the album and my story, I kind of realized that Fast Times at Barrington High sets a very specific mood. Like, not necessarily that it tells a story about like a specific character or a specific group of friends and their high school experiences, but rather that you can tell that it is about a small group of friends and like them coming from a somewhat small town or like a suburb and like going to shows, and it just sets a very specific scene and mood. And then the realization that kind of struck me is that I don't think that I am setting any sort of distinct mood with my story, and a lot of that is in like word choice and stuff that's going to be editing later, but I feel like earlier iterations of the story had a very specific mood and vibe, and I feel like I've kind of pulled away from that a little bit, because a lot of what I'm trying to nail with this story's vibe and tone is like along the lines of Breakaway by Kelly Clarkson or The Reckless and the Brave by All Time Low. Like a teenager stuck in a small town or a suburb and all she wants to do is just break out of it. But then on the flip side, some of the other prominent characters are celebrities, and there are prominent scenes within this story where she experiences their life as celebrities. So I really have this dichotomy of moods I want to hit. They're as opposite as can be, and I think that if I end up actually hitting both of them, it'll work really well together, but I think I am not hitting either of them, and that's what is frustrating to me. Like, I think right now my story is just kind of like the same, and there needs to be this dichotomy that I'm hoping to hit. I think that subconsciously I've been trying to avoid being cliche and hitting on certain tropes or scenes, etc., that would come off that way. But I think in avoiding those altogether and not trying to just make them better and do them well, I have just failed to set any sort of mood or tone with either of these, if that makes sense. So I think going forward, I need to try and be bigger with both of them. In the scenes where she's like experiencing their life as celebrities. It needs to be bigger, bolder, more extravagant, more over the top. And in the scenes where she is like lamenting the fact that she wants to get out of the small town, it needs to be like just more overt, and there needs to be more of that like small town vibe, which I think I had in previous versions, but maybe not so much in this current version that I'm working on. So that is my revelation for the day. And I think that it was a really good revelation to have, because I'm not sure how to solve it yet, but I'm glad that I'm aware of the problem. And I know that like mood and tone are things that I struggle to figure out, like with character voice. I think that those kind of things are things that I tend to feel like I'm floundering with, even if I'm not, which I probably am all the time. But I'm glad that I've diagnosed this problem. Now I just need to figure out what medicine to give it. I don't know. I'm just glad that I've pinpointed the problem. I have recognized it. I know it's there. And hopefully I can fix it going forward. Or at the very least, I can fix it in editing, which is probably gonna be what happens. So that's it for now. I have no plans for the day. I have no idea what I'm doing other than I need to hit the daily word count goal. So let's go do that.
Okay, make this big and start.
Well, we had our first failure yesterday. It's day 6. The word count goal for today is 10,000 words. I am currently sitting at just under 11,000 words. But that's because I wrote this morning. So yesterday I ended up writing about 1,200 words, which like isn't awful. It's not like a nightmare scenario. It's still 1,200 words and that's good. But I didn't hit the word count goal for the day, and I just like crashed last night. I literally finished a writing sprint and I didn't even stay awake long enough to put the words into the NaNoWriMo site. Like I was just sleepy and I fell asleep, and we ended up with 1,200 words instead of 1,667. So I woke up today and did some writing sprints because the Nano Sprints Twitter account was doing Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure themed writing sprints, and that is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I was like, I have to get in on this. So I got about 1,200 words in. I think my overall goal for today is to do about 2,000 words today, or like just to, again, get up to tomorrow's word count goal, which is like 11,667, I think. And after doing those writing sprints, I'm about 700 words away from that, so that's not too big of a deal. I'm sure I can get that in less than an hour. So when I was writing those 1,200 words yesterday, I started chapter 8, and then I finished it with my sprints this morning. So I'm going to be starting on chapter 9 later today, and that is the last chapter of Act 1, which I'm very excited about because I'm so ready to get into Act 2, because the first half of Act 2 is probably my favorite part of the entire book. It's some of my favorite scenes. It's what I'm most excited to write, and so I'm very just ready to get into Act 2 already. One good thing is that yesterday I talked about how I felt like I wasn't hitting that like small town vibe and tone correctly, and I realized that chapter 9 deals with entirely characters from her hometown, like characters she knew before the story started, and I thought of a way to bring the small town vibe into that chapter. So hopefully that helps me set the mood and tone just a little bit more. I'm definitely still going to need to go back and edit stuff and probably try and figure out more things to do. But that is one distinct way that I can do that. And I'm very excited that I thought of that, because it's something pretty easy and it makes the chapter better than it was before. So I like that. I'm excited about it. And that's what I'm going to be writing later today, or at least part of it. I don't think I'm going to get through the whole chapter today. Now, I have all these good vibes about writing today. I'm very excited about writing today. But I do have to mention my other failure yesterday, which is that I was gonna finish this vlog yesterday. I realized I was gonna hit 10K on day 5 and I was feeling good about it, and I was like, I'll just end the vlog on day 5 instead of doing a full week, because that's like a solid, distinct 10K, and then I didn't hit 10K on day 5, and so clown. So now, instead of this vlog being like 30 minutes, which I already felt was too long, it's gonna be even longer because I have another day after today to finish out the week. But that's fine. Maybe after that I'll move on to shorter vlogs, but this first week is gonna be very long. I apologize, but then again, if you're watching this right now, you're already over half an hour into it, so I guess you're invested at this point. So that is it for this update. I will check back in later after I've done some writing. It is now day 7 of NaNoWriMo. The word count goal for today is 11,669 words, and I am currently sitting at just under 13,000 words. Once again, I failed to update you again last night because I crashed. I need to fix this, and it wasn't like I was writing and then I fell asleep while writing this time. It was literally just I was tired, I fell asleep, I was dumb. So even though I've been bad about updating over the past 24 hours, I have been good about writing. I got a little bit over 2,000 words written yesterday. I think it was like 2,200, something around there. So I finished the day back on track, a day ahead of the goal, which was what I wanted to do. Honestly, I can't remember where I was yesterday at the beginning of the day in terms of where in the story, but I did write to about the middle of chapter 9 yesterday, and then this morning I finished out chapter 9 with those like 900 words that I wrote. So now that I'm finished with chapter 9, it is time to jump into Act 2 with chapter 10 later today. And in completing chapter 9, I have also completed Act 1 of Flirting with Fame. I believe I had somewhere around 4,000 words going into NaNoWriMo. I can't remember for sure. And adding on the almost 13,000 words that I've gotten so far in NaNoWriMo, that brings Act 1 up to around 17,000 words, like maybe 1650, which to me feels a little bit on the short side. I think that once it's fully finished and edited, it needs to be about 20,000 words, but it's actually good that it's on the short side right now because, like I've said so many times in this vlog, there are several chapters that felt shorter than they should have been or that I needed to expand upon more. So I have like 3,500 words of wiggle room to work with, which is probably a pretty good amount. So I feel really good in terms of that word count currently and what I think it needs to be once I edit it. So Act 1 is complete and I feel pretty good about it. Piggybacking on me feeling good about Act 1, Chapter 9, which basically I kind of pulled out of nowhere, is like the best that I felt about any of the writing I've done so far in NaNoWriMo. And I say that I pulled the chapter out of nowhere. The chapter already existed. It was centered around a conversation that my main character needed to have with another person. And what changed and what I pulled out of nowhere is the entire setting and the things that happened in the scene apart from that conversation. And even though I pulled all of that out of kind of nowhere, I feel really, really content with a lot of the stuff that I wrote in that chapter, especially the first paragraph. Like, I was writing the first paragraph and I was like, I actually really like this. Like, I'm sure it still needs to be edited and maybe in like a month or two I'll hate it, but for once, I feel very good about the words that I put on the page yesterday and today, and that just is such a good feeling to have, especially a week into NaNoWriMo when I'm about to jump into Act 2, which I'm very excited about. I'm glad that this is when all of these good feelings are hitting, because this is often the time when you start to get bogged down by NaNoWriMo, and I feel like a new kind of invigoration. So I'm very excited about writing. I feel really good about my story. I'm very excited about jumping into Act 2, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get a ton more writing done today. I think that for today, my goal is just to get the daily 1667. I got a little bit over 900 earlier, so I have about 700 left to go, and I think that's about as much as I can do today. I wish I could do more, but I do have quite a bit of actual work to get done that I think will prevent me from getting more than that done. So I'm not gonna try and reach for the fences and like try to do too much. I'm gonna shoot for that goal, and later today I will update you and kind of just talk about how I feel about week 1, although I kind of already did that. But it's just going to be kind of the last concluding scene of this vlog because it's gone on way too long and the week is almost over. So I will see you sometime later tonight to wrap this whole vlog up. Alright, so we have reached the end of day 7 of NaNoWriMo and thus the first week of NaNoWriMo. I just completed my words for the day. I don't know if I mentioned this in my earlier update, but I did 900 this morning at a coffee shop, and then just now I wrote almost 900, so I hit like 1,800 words today. That means that my week 1 total for NaNoWriMo is just under 14,000 words, which I am very content with. 15,000 would be a nicer number, but 14,000 is pretty great. And since it's both the end of this vlog and the first week of NaNoWriMo, I just want to sit down and talk a bit about how I feel this first week has gone, and also what I kind of plan to do and expect to do going forward. The really interesting thing for me so far in NaNoWriMo has been how easy it's felt to get words every day. I really started out day one feeling super unmotivated to write, and it was partially, I think, because I was sick, but I think it was honestly more because I just had taken several days off from working on my story and I just wasn't in a mood to write. Like, I just wasn't excited about it, and if it hadn't been NaNoWriMo, I probably wouldn't have worked on it, and I probably still wouldn't be working on it. But NaNoWriMo really helped to get me in the mood to write, and now I've written almost 14,000 words. So that quick turnaround really surprised me. I went from not wanting to write at all to hitting over the daily word count goal almost every single day, and by the end of the week being well ahead of the goal. Because honestly, if you'd asked me on day one if I would be successful in NaNoWriMo this year, I probably would have said no. I probably would have said, I'll try to get 30,000 words maybe, but here I am with 14,000 words, and that's already almost halfway to that goal that I had in my mind at the beginning of the month. And just NaNoWriMo has really motivated me and helped me to write even more than I thought I would. And like I said earlier today, I think that what I wrote yesterday really helped to motivate me even more, and also moving on to Act 2 helped even more. So I think that I've found myself in a really good spot for the end of week 1, and I hope to continue that excitement going forward into week 2. Now here's the thing, going forward for the rest of the month, I kind of want to shoot for higher than the typical 1667 nano daily goal. I said earlier in the vlog that in total, I think that once this story is finished, it will be about 80,000 words, or at least that's what I'm kind of shooting for. And even though I'm generally an overwriter, it seems like the current trend, at least while I'm writing for NaNoWriMo, is that I'm underwriting a little bit. So I'm thinking maybe this first draft will end up being more along the lines of 70,000 words. That's just a number I pulled out of nowhere. I don't know for sure. So if that's the case, and this first draft ends up being somewhere in the ballpark of 70,000 words, I've already written 17,000 of those. That's in Act 1, which means that there's about 53,000 left, somewhere in that ballpark. So we have 23 days left in November, and I just did the math. If you take those 53,000 words and you split it up between 23 days, that gives you an average of 2,300 words a day, roughly. It's like 2305. So hypothetically, going off of this logic I've got running around in my brain, if I write roughly 2,300 words per day for the rest of the month, I should be able to, if I continue with my pace, I should be able to finish the draft by the end of the month. So as I was formulating this idea in my mind, I was like, that's probably going to be at least 2,500 per day. That's way too much. But 2,300 sounds so much more approachable because it's literally only like 700 words more than the nano average per day. And that's the thing, 2,300 words in a day is not that difficult to do. The problem is averaging 2,300 words a day, and I'm not sure I can keep up with that. But then at the same time, my brain is telling me that it can't hurt to try. And I kind of want to. This is the problem. I've come up with a goal that is seemingly possibly attainable, but also getting into that range where it might not be attainable. And I guess that's what a real challenge is, because I'm challenging myself. But I don't know. I think I'm gonna at least attempt it. I might start doing this and realize it's a bad idea immediately and just be like, nope, 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 going back to the normal 1667. But I want to at least try it. I want to at least give it a fair shot, see if I can do it. If I can't, fine, but I want to attempt it and see if it's at least possible before just writing it off as too difficult. So I guess that's my new plan going forward. Operation Finish the Draft in NaNoWriMo. Is that what we're calling it? That sounds dumb. So that's where I'm gonna leave this vlog. I am really happy with this past week of NaNoWriMo, and I'm both excited and a little bit scared for the next few weeks, but I'm really hoping to be successful both in NaNoWriMo in general and in this new goal that I have set myself for some reason. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to this point in the vlog, I appreciate it. This was a long one. I promise my other nano vlogs are gonna be shorter. I'll probably do 2 to 3 days like I did in the past because I am way too long-winded for week-long vlogs. Links to all my social media stuff, including NaNoWriMo and Goodreads, are down in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Thank you again so much for watching. Bye.